hour is 7:06 PM, Tuesday, August 13th. We have a quorum. Apologies for my being late. Thank you, everyone else. The agenda for the evening is, motion to order, to open our meeting. So, motion and second. Jim. All in favor of opening this meeting, since we don't have anyone on planning board remote, right?
No.
Okay, so we don't need to do roll calls, since we are all present for planning board here. The agenda for tonight, the review minutes from July 25th and July 30th, and approve those minutes, hopefully. And then the current planning board business, the MBTA 3A zoning overlay district update. We'll review the survey that was sent out to, the town was notified by a townwide mailing of a survey that our technical consultant put out, and we will review those results regarding the MBTA overlay zoning. Discussion of potential parcels to be selected for the MBTA 3A multifamily zoning. Review the timeline that we are required to adhere to, and identify parcel for application. The second item under current planning board business is consideration of comments and letter regarding the proposed development Coolidge Apartments at 108 Coolidge Street. And third on our agenda, review potential warrant articles and the timing process for these warrant articles. Discuss the meeting schedule for next meetings, and then other business reports on meetings with other boards and entities in the town planner report. But I make a motion to accept the agenda. Unless is there a second? Is there any discussion on that? Okay.
Second that.
All right, moved and seconded. The agenda is as stated. No amendments to the agenda. So starting with the July 25th minutes, all members were present, except Steph Harrison. And it was a fairly short meeting. We were attending the select board meeting, so therefore the select board meetings minutes are what we will adhere. We were attending and we were present for the select board meeting of July 25th. Are there any comments on these minutes? Hearing none, and then may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, so moved, seconded. July 25th minutes are approved, right? Both, all in favor? Okay. July 30th minutes was a full planning board meeting. It was remote, entirely remote. I have no edits. Does anyone else have any concerns or edits regarding the minutes for July 30th? The only item on the agenda was an A&R. It was fairly straightforward.
Yeah. No, fine.
No comments. Okay, so motion to accept the minutes as presented for July 30th.
So moved.
So moved by Rob and seconded Jim. All in favor of accepting the minutes of July 30th as written up. Thank you, Heidi, again for doing those. We do miss having Steph for that, but it's nice to have her on the board. All right, so moving on, we have the item on the agenda for discussion was the survey results for 3A. And let's see, did it make the most sense? Are you running it from the iPad?
I can't
Did you
screen share.
initiate the meeting? Let's see, are we on the meeting here?
You have to do both. I have to start it here and then go to there so you don't get the sound.
Okay,
Steph is
and
gonna show the
Okay, Steph's gonna share the, all right,
appearance, but she said she's on her way.
okay. Is she coming here or,
She's coming.
okay. Our
Where's
diary's
someone?
not yet, I might be able to, go here, yeah, but I can also,
I can start.
I didn't log in. So. Actually, Heidi, do you feel, I've been I've been a little out of the loop today, so the survey results I scanned through and, we,
Can you talk about it on a high level?
yeah, would you
Sure.
please?
So there were 164 responses to our survey result, which was, I think, a pretty decent turnout. And included 41 comments. There were two sections for comments. One was on location and one was just general comments after the survey. It was open from July 17th to August 10th. There were 5 multiple choice questions and 2 open-ended short answer questions. First question had been, are you a Sherburne resident? And all 164, so 100% said yes. The second question said, have you attended a planning board meeting discussion discussing 3A and or looked at the background material on the MBTA 3A multifamily housing mandate on the planning board website? 75% said yes and 25% said no. That gave us a little background that most of the people had some education. Question number 3 said Sherburne must zone a 5-acre minimum area that can accommodate at least 78 multifamily dwelling units to be compliant with the new state law. The state law requires that we create a zone, but does not require that it actually be built. What is your preference for this zoning location? Please score each on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being the highest preference and 5 being the lowest. And once Steph gets up, we'll see if she'll screen share.
I'm so
I
sorry.
know, I'm trying to get into Zoom also, just to see.
Totally thought I was coming 20 minutes early to set all this up.
We don't have access to the waiting room here, do we?
No, so that's what I'm trying to watch, keep an eye on that as well.
Swear, there's gotta be an easier way to do it, like,
I'm just happy I got the sound.
yeah, the sound.
I couldn't
works.
do the second screen.
Okay,
That uses a whole other control.
and we do have it recording, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm getting into it
Right. Can you let me into the meeting? So that I guess it's not on this yet.
So,
I'm coming into it, so I should have
Okay, I
everything.
said it's.
sorry that I was waiting.
I need to not. Don't audio, right? You have the, I
I
think I have it set up too, if you want me to.
got it all. Just have to get to the right folder. This is the survey result.
Yes.
Did this one. We did this one.
We're on this one. Okay. So on here, here's a compilation of that question showing the most preferred to the least preferred, and on each area. So the first one had preferred choice was on an already developed multifamily area, where about 65 people said that was the most preferred. And then it went a great variety of levels of down to least preferred, and there are the colors. On the next one said in proposed North Sherburne Water and Sewer District, that had about 60, about 5 people less, 60, they were 70, so this is about 10 people less. 60 said they prefer that as their choice number 1. And again, a different variety going down for the level of choices. And the next one was where a parcel has the potential to be developed. Can't see now.
Did I?
No, I can't admit people. But it's all right, well, if they can see it now. Where a parcel has the potential to be developed with other access to neighboring water in town. And that one had about 45 people to 50 people saying that that was the first preference. Again, a variety, but that one interestingly had also a bunch of people saying that was their least preference. Then the downtown area, the ship changed where that was the least preference for the majority of the people. And on the next one, in another location, that was, again, a fair amount of people saying they would like to choose a different location other than the ones discussed. You want to the next slide? So on responses was a comment section, and we received 18 total. What's here is just a variety of the different types of comments we had. I won't read through each one, people can read it, and we will be putting this up on the website probably next week, so people can see it and look at this in more detail. Any planning board comments on the comments? A lot of things were what was expressed at the public meeting.
Right.
Some of these sentiments are very similar. It ranged from they don't want to do anything at all to different area. An interesting one, a new one that was added was the Sherburne Fire Department practice area on Western Avenue in Odessa.
I agree.
That hadn't been mentioned before.
It's probably closer to water and sewer.
Right, but I don't know the acreage of that lot. So,
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of acres there.
no, I don't think, I think it's a smaller portion. So the next page. Then, when considering locations for a 3A compliant overlay zone, what is important to you? Select all that apply. This showed you the range of what was most important down to least important. And one was the proposed area is in an area that could be the proposed zone is in an area that could best support new multifamily housing in Sherburne. And that had the most important value from people. Property owners within the proposed zone support the overlay was the next most desired choice. The proposed zone is relatively close to transportation. That had about half of the people doing the survey say that was important. The proposed zone is not in my neighborhood. There was a group, but it was not the majority. The proposed zone is relatively near other services or businesses. That was not as important to people. So I think as was expressed at the meeting that we had, there was definitely a sentiment that they would like it where they could actually be built at some point.
So the intent of the legislation, if we call these bars 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, the intent of the legislation is to check the boxes for 1, 3, and 5, right? Or those are the state priorities?
Yes. Because that was the intent, was that it would be near MBTA commuter stations. Initially, the towns that had a station had a preference within half a mile. Next slide. So this was the age range of the people taking the survey, and the majority were 51 and over, and very few that were in the 18 to 30 bracket.
Do we know the makeup of Sherburne on this pie chart?
No.
These, we could find out though, yeah.
We could find out.
Just curious if it reflects
Yeah.
demographic.
Yeah, and actually then we would have had to break it down even further. It's probably fairly close to our demographics. Yeah. What I'm
I
thinking.
mean, there's a lot of 18 and under in Sherburne, which wouldn't show up on this pie chart,
Right.
but I'm just curious if
Right.
51 plus is that much bigger than, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it is because we actually had a fair amount that were 60s to 80s.
And that's kind of been a trend. It's, you know, we've had the MAPC do studies and they were telling us that our aging population is larger than our younger population.
And then the last slide where there was a sample to put in, an area to put in comments, and this is a variety of comments that were put from different residents. Again, ranging the gamut of what they would like to see, something preserving the character, meeting the minimum requirement, no more. Running all the way the gamut of they would like to see something actually be built, they'd like to see it near septic and water.
You know, sewer and water.
Sewer and water, septic and water, yeah. Next page. And some more comments, and again, we will be putting this up on the webpage.
So, I guess our discussion is, we have, as a planning board, been talking about this for a while. We don't have, do we have a map of the, we don't have it.
Is that what you sent out right before the meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, I do have that, let me share it. What I think would be helpful is, if I, before I switch to the map, so I'll start it opening because it was kind of a big, file. But, you know, those, rank your preferred criteria. That question with all of the bars, let me share that again. I think I can share that again. Share my screen. Okay, this chart. I think it would be helpful to map the parcels that were considered, like, see where do they fall and along this chart. I think that would be a helpful exercise, just to see.
Okay, I did bring out a printout of that.
I have the map here, so I can, you know, but in terms of
Yeah.
just looking. Thought I was having the map here. It was a huge, no, it wasn't that big, 12.6. Let me try this again. There it is. So the first criterion then was on an already developed multifamily parcel, and the second criterion was in the district, right? So right there, that kind of limits to a couple in the district up here.
Coolidge Crossing and the lab, which, as we learned from our technical consultant, we can use parcels even if they've been, well, yes, we could use the Coolidge Crossing parcel, even though it's already been approved for a 40B local initiative project apartment building, but actually, we don't have anything built there yet. An application for building has not come forth yet because the infrastructure is still not there yet. But it is eligible at this stage of the game for rezoning for multifamily, if that's what we choose to do as a town.
108 Coolidge is also a proposed one that would be eligible. Same here.
108 Coolidge, which had a current 40B proposal on it, but also had nothing built there and nothing, and it's zoned, it's not, the EA, it doesn't work because you can't have property that's age restricted. So that is why Meadowbrook Commons parcel not eligible for rezoning as 3A because it has been rezoned for EA.
By the way, Coolidge meets the 5-acre requirement as well.
But again, there are no infrastructure facilities, so for the same reason that the Coolidge Crossing apartment building is not yet built, it would be the same challenge for 108 Coolidge.
And then downtown was kind of deprioritized, if you will, based on the survey results. which are part of the-
There was some negative feedback as well.
And then the fields is over here, which is already developed. And then Meadows Edge and Whitney Farm. And then there was talk about the Western Ave, which is the fire practice yard. I don't really know where that is exactly up here.
I think it's
Where
that
your
tiny
cursor was.
I think
gray
it's the gray sliver.
town's parcel that's, I don't even know if it's 5 acres.
Yeah.
I don't think it's 5 acres.
Is that this one here next to Odessa?
Yeah, that's the fire practice. So I don't think it would qualify because I don't believe it's 5 acres.
And we need just over 5 acres, you know, really looking at a 6-acre parcel because you will have some.
Unusable
Yes,
with wetlands and other setbacks.
Could you use part of the Odessa parcel that's in the white? That crosses over into the Sherburne side?
But that's not the single parcel, which allows for the cap, right?
no, we can do a partial parcel.
Right, but the single parcel alone allows for
Yeah.
the cap, and a single plus a partial wouldn't
Right.
allow for a cap. Okay.
That's a parcel that is in Sherburne, on Sherburne land is even 5 acres.
Right
so.
there, yeah.
This part, if you added that to the fire.
If you added them, they probably will give you the.
It looks like the same size as Coolidge Crossing,
Yeah.
just optically.
But given the, that's where it gets really confusing because yes, you can rezone something, I guess, I don't know if that's a distinction, rezone something that's
Oh, you know what, you
It's
can't
not-
use municipal land.
right, so town
That's
owned
why the
land.
town, the fire one cannot, yeah, that's why we could not use, Woodhaven.
Right,
So we're back to either Kendall or either of the Coolidge parcels, which
Right.
seems to be the best fit, in my opinion, any of those.
I mean, the Kendall Avenue parcel, it's across
Specifically,
from
you're talking
already
about
a
the
multi.
currently undeveloped Kendall, there's two different Kendall parcels on it. What's,
Yeah.
you're talking about the currently undeveloped one.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right in the corner, sorry.
Well, that one kind of, one of the considerations was already developed multifamily area, so that doesn't meet the definition to the letter, but if,
It's across the street from a multifamily.
But if you look at the next survey questions, they were talking again to the rank what preference you wanted. And I think that had some different.
I mean, a condo building is a form of multifamily housing, the Sherburne Meadows. Right across the street. The blue box across from the red box.
yeah, I didn't know if somebody answered the question on an already developed multifamily, oh, it says area, okay.
Right.
I was thinking parcel meaning no
No,
deforestation,
right.
right, but
Right.
you're right, it says area.
And then this other question
Yeah.
4, when considering location, what was the most important? There was definitely the most important was that the proposed zone is in an area that could best support new multifamily housing in Sherburne. So that one is something that regardless of the water district, that
Yeah,
has
So
potential
so
on
this
its own.
Kendall Ave is in a multifamily area and potentially best suited to,
Right, and then they also
provide
have the
new-
property owners within the proposed zone support the overlay, is the next most important feature. And we did receive an email from the trust, the family trust, that they do not oppose the 3A zone being put in this place.
at 36 Kendall.
Right.
And you could walk to the West Natick station from there too. A
This
long
is
walk,
closest
but you
one.
can do it, I see people do it when I use it.
Do you want to review the timeline of this one?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, this was our challenge that we have to abide by in order to kind of stay on track. Part of the bylaw, that language that needs to get submitted has to include the specific parcel, so. Yeah, we've got the timeline on this in front of us now, and it's just, as it says, the top line, it's got the, that we have to pick this parcel in July and August. We had the meeting with the technical consultant June, was it June 11th or something thereabout? And then from there, a lot of kind of the parameters were discussed, and we looked at things widely. We had we had a good crowd on that, at that meeting. And people said they wanted to have more options, ability to weigh in and make sure we had a wider attendance. Here we are, August 13th, and we have participation, but it's a smaller group than we had June 11th, but that's okay. Maybe people have had a chance to go and actually read some of the information in the time between June 11th and August 13th, and understand a little bit more about the process, and also understand some of the constraints that we're working with, and perhaps that's why attendance is as low, or they feel that they put their 2 cents in on the survey. Hopefully, that is the case. So what we are dealing with is we tonight need to walk away from this meeting with a selected parcel And then we need to have our application, we need to let our technical consultant who's been working with us on the language, the bylaw language was mostly written, and we had to address, we had a technical assistance grant more than a year ago, and so a lot of language was written. But in the interim, some things changed. There was a red line version of bylaws at the state level. So that came out last August, a year ago, after we had completed some work. So we basically, we haven't done a whole lot of new language. It's been mostly with the kind of boilerplate bylaw language. The work has been done to correct things that were technically incorrect, just to process it. So the major part that we need to deal with is selecting a parcel. And this needs to then be submitted to, this one goes to EOHLC for review by the end of September. And then they get 90 days, and we have to make sure that it could take a full 90 days, which is, if they get at the end of September, and it takes them the full expected 90 days, which it did last time, that brings us to the end of December. At the same time, we are also submitting to the Attorney General's office for bylaw review of the language. Before we do either of those, we'd also have our town council reviewing the language to ensure what we're putting forth, our town council feels is correct. So all of this review process needs to be completed so that we are as a board comfortable and everybody's weighed in with our final warrant article language to be shared with the select board by the end of January, and be submitting our warrant request by the end of December, actually, and then the language to the select board by the end of January. And then the public hearing process begins with advisory, and and then the planning board holds a public hearing as well. So there will be another hearing at the planning board level. There's a hearing at the advisory level and select board. And then at long last, town meeting in April. And if we do not pass this in April, then we will be required to have a special town meeting. And I don't think we want to go there.
I will also be willing to set up some smaller outreach sessions just for community to come in if they have questions throughout the next several months as well.
Have you asked for input? Okay.
I guess so based on this, I'll probably take this slide down. Are there any questions of anyone in attendance? I know we've kind of been looking at this for a while, and so maybe we're missing something, but looking at the survey and kind of looking at what complies, as we just pointed out, the primary parcel is the one at the end of Kendall, which meets the requirements for acreage, meets the requirements for proximity to commuter rail, meets the kind of best viable option for actually happening, being viable because of proximity to adjacent town resources, and there's already water on those districts, MWRA water from Framingham on those parcels.
It's the closest location to water and sewer.
Right, I mean, it's from
And
something
very
that happened,
expensive
it's not
cost.
because of a new district that's been discussed, it's because it's been it must have been when town lines were adjusted years ago. So at one time, those parcels were perhaps part of Framingham, I don't know. there were shifts at some point.
So you're looking for comment from the folks in attendance? I mean, I have another thought.
Feel free, and we should, like, planning board, I guess, deliberate first, but
Okay, so let me share my screen again, just so we can look at those survey results at the same time. So if you look at the top priorities here, right, are in an already developed multifamily area and in the water district. And then everything else was neutral or less important. Then if you look at this slide, the half or more are the top 3 criteria, which is ability to best support new multifamily housing, property owners are in support, and it's relatively close to transportation. So with that in mind, these 2 red properties, so in a little bit, the 36 Kendall and the Coolidge Crossing both meet all of those requirements, except that we have property owner support for Kendall. And I do not know that we've asked the question of Coolidge Crossing, whether there would be support. So, but I feel like these 2 parcels kind of equally meet the criteria that have been expressed by the town in the survey. And the potential, a consideration is, what are the current plans for the parcel? And what are the consequences if those plans do not proceed as anticipated, right? So if Coolidge Crossing, if for whatever reason, I mean, I read in some of the comments that, you know, the pace has been slower than people want as far as really, you know, commitment to that particular 40B. If that developer were to walk away, and that site becomes prime real estate, literally, for a different kind of 40B that's not as, say, friendly for the town, does this provide the property owner with another option that's better or potentially better because it has to meet local bylaws as opposed to 40B, which bypasses the bylaws? I don't know, I just want to put it out there that like either of these properties could, you know, if they were sold, if they were on the market, could be attractive as potential locations for 40Bs. And do either of these, does a 3A zoning help mitigate the risk of an unfriendly 40B? Does that make sense?
yeah, I guess the challenge is we have an approved. Yeah, I mean, the challenge is 3A is not designed to address affordable housing. It's designed to increase the volume of housing in the Commonwealth near commuter rails, and the idea that there's a belief that multifamily housing is less expensive. However, the multifamily housing that a lot of us are seeing, townhomes, are still quite luxury and expensive. So it's a density then without, it's adding to our denominator while we're still trying to address how we achieve the 10% of affordable, deed restricted affordable housing that the state is requiring also. And so that's a challenge if we were to rezone that as 3A, potentially then it becomes a multifamily with only 10% affordable housing. And now we still have to find that volume of affordable housing units elsewhere in town, and we kind of are back at the cat chasing its tail, dog chasing it, which is not getting ahead.
So the 3A could add more housing, you're saying, so it would be better to combine it with a 40B that's already.
Right, I mean, until we've met our kind of the requirement, we're still under that pressure. We're under pressure to comply with 3A and also comply with the 10% of affordable housing. Marion Neutra has her hand raised, and I'd love to hear what she has to say. Marion, if you'd like to speak, please do.
Sure. Regarding the 88 Coolidge Crossing parcel, I think at this point it's kind of irrelevant because that parcel is really not available for zoning, for 3A zoning. I mean, it's possible that in the future, the developer could pull out. In fact, the developer hasn't committed yet, but still working on it. We won't know for the next few months, probably, exactly what's going to happen with that parcel. So, I mean, I guess you could argue that you can put anything up with 3A as long as it fulfills the requirements. You don't have to worry about it being built, but that's a parcel that we would not want to lose our affordable housing option on. So I think that there are negative reasons to, not even consider that in the 3A zoning. First of all, you can't. And second of all, I can't see why you would want to.
As we've stated, we have a local initiative approved project there, a project that as a town we said we supported. So it wouldn't make sense as a town right now to change gears on that property. It would send a mixed signal to the developer that we are continuing to try and work with on that parcel. But it is confusing because we did get information that we could rezone a parcel that's already built and has housing on it. But the other reason is to, while we're as a town challenged with adding affordable housing and adding 3A, there is, from a planning perspective, a good reason to start with a manageable amount of acreage and meet the requirements, because we're still trying to figure out how to make these things happen. And so that would be by selecting one parcel that met the 15 unit per acre, the kind of 5 acre plus requirement, and have it be 1 unit that then would not exceed 78 units. Otherwise, if we go selecting multiple parcels, as we learned at the June 11th meeting, if we select multiple parcels, you can't have any restriction on number of units. So just as we're, kind of two different apples and oranges here, the affordable housing dilemma and the multifamily housing dilemma, which they feel like they should be the same challenge, but they are a completely different set of rules and regulations that we have to navigate. So. And having the property owner support is a big deal. And I think it's a positive for, in that situation, it is a positive that they're able to have an option on their property, and if the family supports it, it makes a lot of sense for the intention of 3A being the closest parcel to the commuter rail station, and to get it jumping on Mass Pike, jumping on Route 9, going in multiple directions.
And frankly, 2 commuter rail stations, because Framingham Center is not too much further by the street.
Now I have a question about the 36 Kendall, which is, that's 21 acres. There is some wetlands on it, but I believe, something like that takes up, I don't know, maybe 35% of the acreage, something like that. So there's maybe something on the order of 13, 14 buildable acres.
I did check into that because I was concerned too, would be, if you chose that parcel, would you have 12, 13, 14 acres that you could put up to 15 units per acre, bringing us over the amount we like? And feedback from EOHLC has been that we could choose a portion of this parcel, say up to 6 acres. On this parcel, they can choose any 6 acre, like make a section in that parcel. So that we would, in essence, then not be producing any more than our required units.
But, well, you don't even have to do that, do you? I thought you could. That's nothing, that's not what I was about to ask.
Oh, okay, so,
But you can also, you can just, if it's a single parcel, you can institute a cap, right?
well, the EOHLC says you can institute a cap, the Attorney General doesn't want to see the word cap. So this is where we've been running into a problem when our bylaw had put a cap on the units. There was a concern that the Attorney General doesn't like to see any caps in
Mhm.
bylaws. There was a concern that, and they were sending me, oh, Ashland put something and they denied it because they felt that they were capping growth and they want the state to have growth. By putting in a limited acreage amount, meeting the state's required up to 15 units per acre, we are in effect putting a cap without saying the word cap. We're just choosing a land parcel that meets that would produce the same amount. For some reason or other, that seems to be palatable.
Okay, but this isn't really matching what I thought I heard from the consulting folks who are here. We're basically saying it's no problem, as long as it's one parcel, you can cap it at your required number of units.
The problem we're running into is this is an evolving legislation and interpretation. And you have two different groups. You have our application choosing the parcel, and then you have our bylaw saying what we are gonna do for MBTA 3A zoning, which doesn't necessarily, so you've got two different avenues that we're following. And they're both kind of evolving this as towns have been coming and getting approval. They've only approved 3 or 4 towns completely so far. So there's a lot of towns that they're still working through right now that don't have full compliance yet. And this is what the latest was, this is when I was at a meeting about 2 weeks ago and I went up and spoke to EOHLC and asked about the parcel. The Attorney General's office was represented as well, and I was speaking with them. Yeah, it'd be much cleaner for them to see something where they didn't have to try and agonize and come up with reasons to deny our bylaw.
Let me ask the question I meant to ask anyway, which is, if we look at the 36 Kendall parcel, does anyone have an estimate of what could be developed there in the absence of water and sewer? If somebody was just to do septic?
No, we have no, I have no idea what the soil conditions are out there. And that would be the first determining, they would have to do test wells and find out how the soil was, because that determined more dense, bigger, less.
But our mission is to create the overlays.
Because they do have access right now to Framingham water, and they do border native, there's a possibility that they could, like, someone could present a 40B and work out intermunicipal agreements with the towns, without our town being involved. So you could see a 40B project coming in here. But we have no say over. Mary has a hand up.
Marion, please go ahead.
A question about the Kendall Street property, the Gagan property. There is a single family home on the property. Are they looking to preserve that home? Or so would you have to choose land that excludes the home? Would you have to say, take an acre or two? Or it would require 1 acre in that district to preserve the home?
Could speak with them, even the possibility of doing an A&R if they want to preserve the home. Right now, there's a family trust that has 9 members that have a vote on this property and land and what they want to do with it. There is some of the residents, of the owners would like to preserve the whole thing. Some would like to preserve the house. They still don't know what they're going to do. The 2 representatives I spoke with said they represented the majority of the 9 who were okay with doing the 3A zoning there. they hadn't considered the possibility that they could carve out an acre, and they have the street frontage to do that on an AR, but they don't need to do that right now. But it is
Right,
something,
there's enough room. It's a moot point. I mean, you could zone it for 3A. If given what you know from the family, you could go ahead and zone it for 3A.
right, but they may have, like I said, they have enough acreage that we don't need that house if they want to carve that out. To put
Yeah.
in, so
They could do nothing.
they could do nothing, right?
Yeah, either way, it would work.
Yeah, but they didn't know what the status is with the house yet. If they wanted to preserve that, because even if they had a developer come in, if they wanted to preserve the house, the best way would be to separate out the parcel.
Ideally, you'd have a site plan which shows what the 5 acres looks like, that avoids the house, and avoids the wetlands. and-
Right. It's to be determined, so it's like,
I mean, and I guess I get back to, it's a whole lot easier to adjust, with so many changing pieces to the interpretation on this bylaw, it's a lot easier to have one parcel rezoned, to go forward with one parcel and manage what's happening on that one parcel rather than manage multiple parcels throughout town until we have a better sense of where 3A is going in conjunction with 40B, because they have different requirements, different regulations, different processes, and 3A only allows up to 10% affordable housing. And that, we still, that doesn't come near our to get more than 10% in order to get beyond and get a town-wide 10%. So
I-
40B is 25%.
So the zone's created, phase 2 is what happens after that.
Yeah, are there any other comments from anyone attending tonight? Thank you for attending. Anyone?
Very brief comment.
Yeah,
So I was
name and
thinking,
name and address.
Dan Sicko, 116 Lake Street. So I was thinking ahead to the end of the process with advisory public hearing and town meeting. Thinking that having the consent of the property owner seems like it would be an important element to have in place to increase the chances of a successful advisory public hearing and successful town meeting. It just seems like it takes away a potential source of opposition to the opposition to the plan.
yeah, I think that we were all, we were grateful to have the communication and dialogue with the property owner because it does make a big difference. There are some other parcels where there's interest by the property owner, but this parcel being unique in that it's got a decent amount of land and there's also a decent amount of buffer between neighbors, so whatever happens on this parcel is not, yeah, I think it's a great thing having some support from the property owner on this. I mean, I guess, I mean, I think we kind of are circling around this, but just given the parcels that were identified and that were initially discussed at our June 11th meeting and given the feedback we've gotten from the townwide survey, I believe we've identified a parcel.
Do we need a
Do we need a
motion?
motion to put forth to select?
I just want to make sure that it seems like there hasn't been a lot of quiet, is there anyone else online who has any input to this? Because there are a number of people here who haven't spoken yet. I wanted to give it some quiet space to see if anyone had some thoughts. But yeah,
Okay,
so is there an action?
yes, we need to make a motion to select, if someone wants to make, or I can make the motion to. Let's see that.
So the next step is,
Yeah, this is
36 Kendall,
36 Kendall?
Yeah.
Them and the car.
36 Kendall Ave.
Thank you. So a motion to put forth, part of our parcel selection to stick with one parcel as we're navigating. So motion to select 36 Kendall Avenue as our parcel for submittal as part of our 3A multifamily MBTA zoning bylaw.
Could I just ask you a little bit more information about the I hadn't before heard this idea about designating like a 6 acre subset of the parcel. Could you explain like how that would work? Would that,
It's something that I'm just learning about too, and what I would say is we have a motion to work with consultants to choose a parcel, to choose the portion of the parcel that is compliant with these 3A guidelines.
okay,
So I'm going to rescind my previous motion. Let's start over, because I do think that that was an important element that we will, that I believe that we, with the direction that our board has deliberated tonight is that we will, a motion to work with the technical consultant on the proper language to process for selecting a portion of 36 Kendall Avenue appropriate for our 3A multifamily MBTA zoning bylaw. Second to that. Okay, second from Jim. All in favor? Motion.
Aye.
Okay, so we will thank you, everyone. So unanimous support for working with our consultant to get the correct language for putting forth a selection of 36 Kendall, which complies with the MBTA 3A multifamily housing mandate. And from there, we will have the rest of the language, and I'm sure we will be seeing a draft just before it goes for final review. Like I said, our draft language will go to our town council. It will be going to the Attorney General's office, and it will be going to the LLC office. I'm not getting that, so, okay, you're the PhD. Okay. Were you here for the MBTA zoning discussion?
Yes, yeah, I just have my green postcard up on my refrigerator.
Thank you.
But I'm a little bit late. so-
That's okay.
Did you have anything you wanted to comment or say on?
No, not really. Yeah,
Okay.
I just, I do live in the center of town, so I didn't know what the decisions were about
Okay.
the various parcels that were being considered.
Right, and I can show you the survey results that we went over,
Oh, good.
which it will be online as well.
Is this being recorded?
Yes.
Yeah.
The parcel recommended was 36 Kendall Ave, which is,
And that's the only one? Oh, okay.
Yeah, as a board, when we deliberated, just because of the nature of, there's so many moving parts of this new bylaw.
Right,
And there's
yeah.
still also, as a town, trying to address the 40B and need for 10% affordable housing, which is separate from 3A.
Right, right.
It's a little easier to manage one parcel for now.
Okay.
I can, thank you so much. Before we move to the next agenda item, I apologize that I was late. I did have something that I wanted to say on the minutes. I was not, did you guys already do approval of the minutes?
we did.
So I don't think this changes any outcomes, but it is a technicality on the minutes, which is that for an ANR, the action that was documented in the minutes was to approve. And usually we endorse an ANR because it's approval not required. Right.
Okay.
So I don't think that changes the spirit of the minutes or any of the outcomes, but it might be
No,
worth
but
for the
actually,
record.
I'll amend the language. You want to have, I think we should
We have a
revote.
motion.
Okay, so I would move
Go
to,
back to, the June
That's a good
30th
point.
minute.
Can we have a motion to revisit the minutes?
Sergeant, no, we agree. You just made the motion, I'm
I
sorry.
move to revisit the meeting minutes from July 30th.
All right, good catch.
Second.
All in
You
favor?
are our technical, aye, okay,
Do we need to vote on the motion there?
Yeah.
yes, so,
Correction.
so, all right, so, we are now revisiting the July 30th meeting minutes, and the language is,
On the second page.
that we're correcting is that the planning board,
To endorse.
To not say it, try to make sure that it was.
endorse the A and R presented, because as Jeff has correctly identified, it is an A and R, which means that the approval is not required. We are, as a town, endorsing an A and R, not approving it.
So I move to approve the minutes as amended.
I'll second. Approve the minutes as amended, seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
That's not all you have to do.
Technical room with the language. I'm doing
One,
started in
one,
2018, 18, 19, 20, and one, yeah, 5, 6 years of minutes for planning board. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so moving on, I believe that we've already discussed the timeline for the MBTA zoning bylaw, that is, we're now going to go forward with getting the finalization of the bylaw language, and we'll have that for review the end of September before we submit it. The second item on the agenda, if we are moving on, is consideration of comments and a draft letter regarding the proposed development at 108 Coolidge.
Do you want me to share it?
Just show the letter. Yeah.
I only have a version of my markup, so I'm gonna.
I can send you the,
No, I can show it as no markup.
is this the one that's,
Oops, original, show it as original. This was the clean copy that you sent out.
Oh,
So Addie sent one, and then you had in your packet
my
a
packet,
clean copy that
yes.
was formatted a little bit differently.
okay, so just, I think it's mostly the same. It's
Yeah,
just
so this is the
formatting.
original, but I had some comments on it there. Okay, so let me just share this. Okay, so hopefully people can see it. So still select board. I don't know how you want.
Want to read it, or?
do you want to put up your minutes?
I can, you guys. So the gist of the letter was that it was generally supportive of the concept of the development. It was consistent with the master plan, and architecture was fine, right? And then it talked a little bit about the other projects on Coolidge Crossing and the potential establishment of the North Sherburne Water and Sewer District. And I added to that marker. It didn't seem like there was a conclusion. It just said the water and sewer infrastructure does not currently exist. So I added some language to throw darts at. It's speculative at best to assume that the proposed development will rely on the district. And in the absence of such a district, meeting the water and sewer needs of the proposed development with wells and septic systems would significantly degrade town's groundwater resources. And I was wondering if there's something we can ask for. What is the action of this comment letter, right? Can we ask for a backup utility plan to be described and evaluated as part of this process? Because right now, as presented, the development says it will use water and sewer from the district.
Okay, that's all is in the application.
That's right. So I'm just wondering if like there's an opportunity, like I don't know what the right ask is. This was the best I could do like 20 minutes before I left home. But it's like maybe asking the state to require the developer to submit a backup
I
plan.
don't know if we can do that.
But we're providing comments. Wouldn't that be the zoning board's responsibility?
Oh, maybe. I mean,
These are comments for the select board, for them to put together, I mean, to the, yeah.
I feel like it potentially then maybe not required, but a comment that I feel is important is that there be a backup plan. Like there is no, yeah, maybe,
Mary, do you know,
I think that was our comment that it's, I mean, the planning board can't support this,
but that's not stated.
because we can't say we can't support it.
well, I mean, it's not supported, but it can't, we do say in our,
We don't have enough information.
right. I mean, we don't have, yes, it meets items identified in our master plan and our housing production plan, but right now the infrastructure is not there.
I mean, it's dependent on that. I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
So I think it needs to be a little stronger to say that, you know, yes, the infrastructure is not there and I don't know, maybe,
I think we're in a legal.
Mary has it.
oh, I would love to hear what
Mary
Mary
has
has to say.
Only if it's my turn. Marion Neutra, Prospect Street. I'll be the recipient of this letter as a member of the select board. I agree that it could be stronger. And I like the first sentence that Steph added, therefore it's speculative. At best to assume the proposed development will rely on the North Shore water and sewer. Will rely on water and sewer, the water and sewer infrastructure of the North Sherburne Water and Sewer District. I think that sentence alone is good, and I'm not sure you need to tell him what to do next. I would just end it right there, and that could be tacked on to the paragraph above, or stand on its own, because that really is the major deal with this development. My humble opinion, I'd like to know what the board thinks.
I think that is that adds kind of, you're right, that, you know, to your first point, that there wasn't kind of a conclusion thought on this, and, you know, get to the point thought, and that is the point, that we're being asked to weigh in, you know, there's been a proposal submitted to the state, and the town is, like with every 40B project that comes before town, there is a period of comment based on what is presented. And we are presented with something that makes an assumption
Mhm.
that doesn't necessarily exist. So I think that is a nice addition. Thank you.
Can we add to it, no alternative plan for water and sewer is presented, or is that just redundant?
I mean, again, our comments are going to be sent to the select board.
Yes,
And
they
the
know.
select board will be then writing their own letter. But that,
Mary wants.
oh, she's
on.
Oh, Mary Moore, sorry, I can't, my ears are so clogged up in this AC in here, I'm hearing that. Yes, Mary Moore, please.
Thanks, Eddie Mae. Yeah, I just wanted to plus one or echo that I think having, requesting that the applicant provide some alternative solution if the intermunicipal agreement doesn't provide them with water and sewer would be, an appropriate ask. I think that's something that the ZBA is going to need to understand, and that might be a supporting ask for the town to make. Thank you.
I mean, I guess we did, I thought there was, yeah, I mean, there was a discussion at one point, we were in this area of town. The concerns were a preference for finding some way towards, water, public water and a sewer from an adjacent town rather than pulling it from the ground because of concerns with
I mean, an alternative plan could look like the developer going to Framingham and working out a deal, this developer,
Right.
if the district doesn't come through, right? So I guess, I don't know, if it's the ZBA's purview to think of and request these, make these requests, I don't want to overstep, but I know that when we write comment letters on the committee that I'm on, we do sometimes try to like suggest actions, but I'm fine either way.
I think using your word speculative in there is a good idea.
I mean, regarding your next statement there, I think that's challenged because we do support growth there. We do have 2 projects that we are supporting. And so 40 units is not gonna add more traffic than 120 apartments, so that doesn't,
But cumulatively, it's, I mean, I'm not,
well, if
yes,
everything is built, then we'll have to do there will have to be some safety measures. But that doesn't, the challenge of looking at just this project and some of the challenge that we face is that we kind of, to a degree, looking at this project in isolation of everything else going on when we're weighing in our review process. It's kind of a requirement, so
it's a requirement to look at it in isolation.
to an extent, we're being asked to look at the project in front of us, and we actually can't really pull in every other scenario going on in town.
No, I'm not trying, it's just that they've already been mentioned in this letter, right? The other
Right.
projects, so I just wondered if like alternative language would be something like, the planning board notes that the public has made comments about traffic safety on this road. And the cumulative impacts of, and may have no cumulative impact, the aforementioned developments. It's not meant to be negative, but just.
Right, no, I mean, I guess any project is, right, I mean, we know it's a concern, I mean, we've got a requirement to increase 10% affordable housing, which is gonna then increase our town volume by more than 10%, and all of those cars are going into Natick, either through Elliott Street, 27, or Coolidge, so, there's a traffic safety concern on Coolidge, and it's definitely, whatever happens, it's not, I guess the problem is we're saying, we're being asked to review this project, and it's hard to
Is it Coolidge?
point out this particular project as being an issue.
Like, Coolidge Crossing falls through. This one's still on, but.
Gets us closer to the 10%.
Right, so it's something that's why we should be evaluating this. It's, oh, you mentioned the water district, okay, your final statement on the letter. We look forward to receiving additional concrete data and information on the public water and sewer supplies, which will allow us to fully review the project. I think there's an opening there that you're looking for more information.
But it's incumbent on the developer to make it work.
Right, I think it's gonna be, it's in line with the master plan, it's in line with the housing production plan.
Yes.
The house, the plan that's set back, and those are things that you can actually comment on. But
I think our letter should show, spirit of cooperation with those goals and getting toward the 10%. And in an area that's desirable, quite frankly.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to disagree with anything else in the letter, just.
Yeah, no,
I
I
don't,
don't,
but I also don't, I feel like if we know that we've heard traffic safety concerns, like that's a valid comment. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to say, it doesn't have to be, the planning board is against this project for traffic safety reasons, but just that, like, we have had people come to our meeting and talk about traffic safety on Coolidge Street.
so I think you could mention the planning board is aware that Coolidge Street has had concerns about traffic safety.
That's what, yeah,
And
that's what I
I
was
think you just
suggesting.
make that, but not alone to with increased density of other projects or anything else. I think you can make it just.
Mary Moore has her hand up.
Yes, Mary.
Name and address.
Thanks,
Mary,
Addie May.
and haven't been great about keeping us formal here. Could you please state your name and address?
Sure, Mary Moore, 49 Farm Road. I just want to make a comment that a couple years ago, there was a public discussion around affordable housing in the planning board. And I can't remember what planning board meeting it was, but the applicant who is currently proposing the Coolidge Street Apartments expressed that, he felt that the Coolidge Street location was exactly the wrong location. And I don't disagree or agree, but I do think that, we need to kind of keep in mind the full picture of all the stuff that's going on with, the various, 5 or 6 40Bs that are in town. And I don't know how you reflect that in a letter to the Mass Housing or whoever the, adjudicating body is. But I do think there's a lot of broader picture stuff that might want to be considered in this. And I don't know, just sort of a comment as an observer of many of these meetings. So thank you.
I mean, I agree to a point. I think, the Conservation Commission has been asked to weigh in, Public Health, Board of Health has been asked to weigh in. Every board has been asked to submit comments to the select board. The select board really is the one that will be writing a letter that is more encompassing of all of the issues, but at the same time, there is, we do have a lot of projects proposed, but we haven't built a lot. So until those projects are built, we have to, we are a town that has said we do agree that we are willing to comply with the state requirement, and we have a desire to comply with the state requirement. We are attempting to comply with the state requirement, and also, as most of us do desire that we have more places for aging residents to age in place, and for returning families or young families to find naturally affordable housing and have some diversity of housing options, and have affordable housing options that put housing within reach for those who might live, work, just different opinions, different. We as a town, we do support affordable housing. So we are required to weigh in on this project, and we really can't. We have to look at this project to a degree on its merits. I mean, it's frustrating because we all know we don't live just in a silo of just this project. I mean, there's a lot of projects that would work fine if they were in the middle of just in their isolation, but it's how they affect everything around it that is the challenge, but that we can't really weigh in on all of it.
But we need to get to that 10% SHI, and then after that, once we reach safe harbor, we regain local control. That's what's important to keep in mind.
Where are we now? Right now,
This has never allowed for cumulative impacts. I mean, that's the issue at Greenwood, Washington, right? So,
I believe once upon a time that those, I think, early Bs and 40B, there were some ability to say, wait, we've got too large a project, too many things all at once. Those arguments have been shot down by housing appeals courts because there is intense pressure by the state to expand the volume of housing throughout the Commonwealth.
I mean, it's brutal if you look at other towns, what's happening, and read the decisions of that. But it doesn't fare very well for the town. It's always in favor of the developer.
Mary, go ahead.
Sorry, Addie Mae, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate and sort of applaud all the work that you guys have put into this, and I know it's a difficult conversation for the town. I guess I would just say that I have a lot of empathy for the neighbors and friends and residents who live on Coolidge Street, that they happen to be sort of in the midst of a lot of this discussion and talk, and having been sort of like dealing with some stuff locally where I am, I just want to express that I have a lot of empathy for them and I appreciate the position that you guys are in. And I do think, Sherburne supports affordable housing. We want to get this fixed. We want to get to that 10%, but it's not going to be an easy task to make everybody happy. So I just want to thank you guys for the work that you're doing on this.
128 Route 3 intersection.
Thanks.
It's just a nightmare.
Marion, you might want to put yourself on mute. So Steph,
Relatively compact area.
it is, I mean, I guess then it's, I mean, that is the challenge. It's a challenge that every town is facing with this mandate, where it feels like everything, planning tries to look at the whole town and try to build communities in kind of make improvements in stages. And this feels like throwing everything in the kitchen sink method with these two dueling state mandates. And you still have, again, in reality, it's all at the end of the day, it's the financial market that determines what actually finally happens, depending on construction costs, depending on land costs, depending on labor costs, and what a developer thinks of as a potential investment. And infrastructure cost is a huge part of any of these things, any projects happening. I mean, it's why we were working with the developers since 2017, trying to, and as a town supporting it in order to, because it is incredibly expensive and to build infrastructure. And it was a proposal with the EA and the supported local initiative 40B. It financially provided the means for the developer to build construct the infrastructure. Of course, that was 2017 numbers, and things have changed and things have gotten more expensive. So I don't know if that project still supports or not, and who knows? We're not developers. We're not in the business of development. I don't, and it is extremely expensive. We also prefer that if there's dense development, that it be on sewer and public water to protect the groundwater. So that's the conundrum that we face, and that's why we're supporting density kind of in one area of town, which doesn't feel very fair. But the best that we can do as a board, we've tried to have discussions with the developer, with Coolidge and Meadowbrook Rudy about how do you site parcels and design architecture to minimize visual impact, so you don't feel, hopefully as a resident, that you're surrounded by a huge change to the character of town. But I think, are there any, can we, motion to accept the 2 lines of text that, Steffi has presented? I'm making a motion to approve the 2 lines, the amendments to the letter from Steph.
Second?
So moved, seconded, all in favor of the amendment to the letter?
Aye.
So unanimously supported, and I guess the second motion would be, I make a motion that we approve this letter for submittal to the select board as amended.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded, all in favor of the letter?
Aye.
Okay. Approved.
Heidi and Adia will email this.
Thank you. Thanks for reviewing it, yes.
Send it off to select board tomorrow, give it to Jen.
Great. All right, so I guess then that moves us on to the third item on current planning board business, review potential warrant articles and timing. Thank Dan for attending.
Thanks.
Good to see you. We got,
Steph, would you bring up the timeline one first?
Yeah. The 3A time.
No,
Okay,
no.
thank you.
and we talked about several warrant articles, we don't have actually a list.
I do have a
We-
list.
Oh, you have a list,
But I was gonna put the timeline in first,
Yeah.
so we could see
timeline first.
what we were looking at.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, let's share this. Okay, I think I'm on the screen.
Dates on it yet. I kind of wanted to just remind everyone of the flow of what it's gonna take to bring anything to town meeting. Not just the 3A, but any of the other articles that we want to do and work on. So I also put, the town meeting the town warrant opens in December, closes in January. With the select board, so whatever we have, we need to know in this fall, what are gonna be the articles that we're gonna work on. If we draft all the warrant language, get it to work with town council. I put a list of some potential articles that I felt we have to do the 3A zoning. There's a new one that just came up that was passed by the state, which is the ADU, the accessory dwelling units. The state has now signed that into legislation, but it is a by right. Our accessory dwelling unit is by special permit, which means we have to review and adjust our bylaws to be compliant with the states. So the governor signed it, but now we have 180 days before it becomes effective, which means we can pass something that will align with it and we'll be in compliance after we pass something at town meeting to amend our bylaws.
So that's a record, like a bookkeeping, as
It's an
in,
admin
must
warrant,
do,
but it's
okay.
gonna be a must do, because otherwise we're out of compliance.
Okay.
So that's now jumped up to.
And is that easy, like the language?
No, it's like we have to really read through, and actually, in what I'm hearing from other town planners, there's been some ambiguity on the state legislation. Attached, detached, that was not clear, so the state has to kind of formalize and let things settle and give us our direction, and then we can take that and compare with what we have. So it's just something this fall we'll have to work on, because it's a must do for us. And then the administrative zoning bylaw updates, I was just listing some examples here, the ones that Chris Caney brought up, stuff that's come up, and if we're gonna be doing some administrative updates for town meeting, we should make a whole list and see what makes sense to do.
I'll be meeting with him in September. We haven't set a date yet, but we're in discussions.
Great.
What's Residence District M, was that in his list?
No, this is something that I just came up, that we have a residence district M listed on one of our zoning classes. I couldn't find out what it was, but when you open up our bylaw page, it's listed as one of our residence classes. Then there's no table of uses or anything else. So I thought it was municipal, but it's not municipal. It actually is multifamily dwelling. That in 1979, the town, I finally found out it was 1979, pulled the annual report for the town meeting, they voted to create this district, a multifamily dwelling district. Later in 1991, it looks like they changed it to the residential EA. It looks like it's for Woodhaven that they created it.
So we can potentially delete the reference.
That's what I want to say is I want to make sure that that vote from 91 overrides that. Why do we keep putting residents in the zoning bylaws?
Okay.
So it's those type of housekeeping things that a lot of little ones we should really clean up.
And then there's, okay.
And then the battery energy storage system, Frank's been presenting on September to us. Start looking at what he's done with the bylaws, but we actually have a fair amount of articles already that we need to work on.
And it'll be the same scenarios with the 3A where the select board is going to require the language to be finalized into them by the end of January.
The difference is we will have to have public hearing on all the zoning changes.
Right.
So we will probably have several public hearings starting in January, February.
Is Marion still on?
Marion, are you still on?
Yeah.
I don't see her.
Okay. I feel like, and maybe Adam, maybe you know the answer to this, in the past, when there have been controversial zoning items, the planning board, and I wasn't part of the decision making at the time, the planning board kind of strayed away from doing too much at one meeting. And I guess I would just wonder if, like the ADU one is like, not a big deal, right? A lot of the admin stuff might not be a big deal, but like, is there too much on this list for one town meeting?
I mean, we can always poll, but I
Yeah,
think
it's true.
with them all being kind of zoning language, you sometimes aren't able to determine what's going to be the real controversial one until we start getting into the hearing.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so I think we do need
I see.
to take advantage of, there's a lot of things for a long time that, people have said, oh, Sherburne's difficult. And part of the reason it's difficult is we have a lot of ambiguity in a lot of our language throughout, has led to some problems, and we keep kicking the can down the road. So I think, as much as it feels like a large chunk to deal with, I think there's, and we're not gonna be able to fix all of them. But, like, this farm events is on there in the business district, there's a lot of things in there that, and that's gonna come up at town meeting potentially, if we do get to that far. There's a couple things that are potentially easy fixes, just separating out business district language from something that's in a residential district, because we just need to change some language, and, then people will, we may not get into the weeds of everything, and there will probably be people who say, well, if we're working on this, why didn't you fix this, and why didn't you fix that? And I think we need to not let perfect be the, destroyer of getting some accomplishment here.
Totally agree. So but I'm struggling a little bit with what you're suggesting. Are you saying that we would have two different bylaws that address different zoning
No,
bylaw
it's,
changes? Or that we would drop some of these items as we get closer? Or something else, maybe.
I think our goal is to really just look at the language and try and not, and look at things where we're really doing more wordsmithing. We're not really creating new regulation, we're just cleaning up language that's not clear.
So lot width and farm events, are those the ones that do not fit that bill? Or do they all fit that bill?
I think
A lot, with what you just said, the lot width and the car events are gonna be more major work.
Yeah,
Yes, the other ones, small accessory shed, they wanna change that to.
yeah, the other ones I'm fine,
Yeah,
but I'm asking if we're
Those two
looking at,
will have more
Well,
involved.
and farm events will have more, but it could be that we aren't able to tackle everything, but there's a glaring issue
I see.
with one or two words that
needs to be
we
fixed.
might say, look, we can't fix everything, but this is a total
Okay.
English language conflict.
Right.
And
Step
does it
one,
change really the,
is to fix it, yeah.
Right, the
Okay.
building line lot with building height, that one may be a little more involved one, and that's one time when Chris gets on board, he had ideas on that. But that's the one I see having more, because I had little drawings and things that went with it, that one will be a little more involved, but the Department of Ed's and Business District, looking at just the language on this one, not necessarily regulations or rules.
Okay, I just, yeah. Sounds good.
and if we get to a point where it's just, we can't make it clearer and we're just muddying the waters and once we get to hearings, people will either understand what is the clarity that we're trying to propose, and if it's not being, somehow we're not getting there, we can pull the article.
Yep.
Which we would choose to do rather than go to town meeting and have it shut down, because then if it's shut down, you have to wait 2 years before you can come back and try to address the concerns, so.
I was just trying to get everything on
One place,
schedule
yeah.
here so that we're not stuck scrambling in January.
Probably will still be scrambling.
And there's no way around it, unfortunately. You think you've got everything figured out, and then the thing that you thought was easy peasy.
Yeah.
Is the thing that everyone's fixated on, and you never know.
The good list.
I didn't even put the anti-segmentation link in, so what? Boy, the list could go on and on, it's like, it's really hard, so I try to just focus.
Yeah.
I'm happy to make changes on what you guys think, if something else should really be on here. But I know we have a limited audience. That's the problem. We can put that in our back burner, if we start meeting with Chris, and we feel like, oh, these are gonna be, just read a whole list and check off, great. Anything else, Rob, you can think of to add?
This is quite enough for us to do in the fall, I think.
We'll discuss meetings.
I know, I guess we should plan for our meetings, in September. Let's see, calendar, where is my calendar? I think we had talked that, we had planned that the next meeting would be. Where's the calendar? So the first meeting of September would be the 3rd, and that is out because of elections. So it would be the 10th of September would be our first planning board meeting. And there's a recommendation by Heidi that we meet immediately the following week on the 17th in order to try and stay on our cycle of the 1st and 3rd Tuesdays of the month. The idea being that if boards are clear and on a routine schedule, then we can attempt to avoid too many important meetings on the same night to enable participation. Not that it doesn't always work that way with the amount of things going on in town sometimes, but it is the intent of trying to keep the 1st and 3rd Tuesdays of the month for planning board. Is there an objection to September 10th and September 17th?
I will be here on the 10th, but not on the 17th.
Okay. And, we can make one meeting in person, one meeting hybrid. I mean, and all entirely remote. Right, when we're in person, if there's an understanding, because we're a regulatory board, that we will be hybrid. But we can either choose to be hybrid or we can be fully remote. I guess a recommendation. I'm inclined to to select one of those as a remote meeting and one of those as kind of in person, what's the thought?
I'm fine with either. I kind of like the hybrid meetings, honestly. But
I think that the remote meetings are better for warrant language.
Yeah.
Because it's just hard to like see the screens and get on the same page about words. But I don't know if we'll be at that point by September 10th or something, to really be wordsmithing. So, everybody's fine.
I guess then towards that end, my inclination we do in person on the 10th and remote on the 17th, because you're kind of going back to back. I know my family gets crazy when it's too many meetings in a row. And I'm running out the door. So even if it's, at least if I'm home and somebody desperately needs something, I'm still in the next room. So it's like, is that everyone comfortable with that? That we'll do the 10th in person here, hybrid, and we'll do the following meeting remote.
sure.
The 17th will be remote. Zoom. Okay.
What do you anticipate for agenda? I mean, I know that like, Frankie's gonna
Um,
present the BESS, so that one would feel better like in person.
I'm thinking by the 17th, we potentially will have some language, but we'll have to look at the bylaw for the 3A.
Right, I actually already sent that over to town council,
Okay,
the prior one.
Okay.
For them to look and see. They were good, there were some, supposedly some inconsistencies with our general bylaws and this one. So. And they offered to review it before, so I've already sent that to them, so I said we'll be looking at it in September.
That's actually really good because maybe the consultant, the technical consultant, if it's a remote meeting, could join in. or look
And
at the
that's,
words.
yeah, I'm hoping that they do see his application.
do you think that well, I guess do something a week different, whether it's the 17th or the 10th, it's not gonna,
I would say do the battery entry storage system on the 10th and then the 17th.
Okay.
Touch base with them tomorrow.
okay? Any other,
So that was the 10th and hybrid and the 17th.
Yes, 17th is remote.
Okay, thank you.
Then October, if you want to do the first one. Go with that.
I mean, that would be, if we're staying with the 1st and the 3rd, then, yeah, that makes it the 1st, October 1st and October 15th.
So I'm not here.
Any, what's that?
I'm not here on the 15th.
You're not here on the 15th, okay. Yeah, I guess then my inclination would be do the 1st, I guess. Do the 1st in person and do the 15th fully remote, unless we feel like we're at a place where we're looking at a lot of language, and I do think in some ways it is easier to do language review. I don't know what's easier, I mean, I like having the technology of, and like being able to meet in person, but sometimes it's hard to be looking at a screen and see language, and I still haven't figured out the best.
Just keep those placeholders for now.
Okay.
Just,
And
I
we'll
was
see
just
what we
looking
have
from
coming
and
up.
see if you wanted to get back to, because it says on our website that first piece of first. and the Third, we haven't been doing that the last several months, and I'm trying to get back at some point.
Okay. My inclination, if you're not here, Heidi, would be to do fully remote on the 15th, just to eliminate one less management process. I don't know that Frank is clearly a master at this, but. All right, any other items for the discussion, reports from other boards? All right, hearing none. We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All right, all in favor of adjourning, the time is 8:47 PM on Tuesday, August 13th.
Aye.
All right.
All right, thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.